Hey everybody, I'm Ethan James with honestcarpenter.com. In this video, I'm going to show you how to cut down or shorten interior doors that are too tall for their openings. In this instance, I'm cutting down the door to a bathroom where the flooring was changed. A new threshold was added, resulting in the door wanting to drag on the transition piece. This door actually wouldn't even close all the way, so clearly we need a bigger gap down here. There's a lot of discrepancy though on just how big the gap under a door should be. Some trim carpenters leave it at 1/4 inch for appearance and privacy. But some HVAC manufacturers state that it should always be more than a full inch to allow for proper air transfer between rooms. Also, if a client intends to have a rug in the room, a bigger gap may be required so the door can clear the rug. Personally, I like to install a 1/2 inch gap beneath doors. This is tall enough to allow for airflow, but not quite tall enough that it's very noticeable. That's just my preference. If you've got any thoughts on the subject, feel free to weigh in down in the comments. To get on with the project though, I first removed the door by carefully knocking out the hinge pins using a nail set, a hammer, and a large screwdriver. I'll usually put a few shims under the door before I remove it. This takes some weight off, which allows me to work the hinge knuckles apart more easily. I carry the door outside and lay it across my work table, but I make sure that the knob has room to hang down freely and that the door bottom sticks out well past the end of my work surface. To make her cut, I'm going to use a long straight edge as a guide for my circular saw. If you don't have one of these, an extremely straight scrap of wood can usually work as well. But first, I need to make sure it's the appropriate distance from my intended cut line. With the saw unplugged, I flip it over, draw back the blade guard, and measure from the edge of the blade tooth to the edge of the sole plate. On my Makita, this width is about 1.5 inches. I also want to make sure that my blade is set deeply enough to cut through the full thickness of the door. I do this by laying the saw on the top side of the door with the blade hanging down, and I adjust the depth until the blade extends about 1/4 inch past the underside. To prep the cut, I first run a wide piece of painter's tape along all 4 surfaces of the door bottom. This will help prevent the wood grain from tearing out when the circular saw blade cuts through it. I now have to calculate the required position of the straight edge. Starting with the idea that I want to cut a 1/2 inch off the bottom of the door, I also add the 1.5 inches of clearance for my sole plate. This results in an overall measurement of 2 inches. Pretty straightforward. I use my tape measure to place crow's foot marks at this point on both edges of the top side of the door. I can clamp my straight edge in place at these marks, keeping the clamp handles to the outside of my cut pass. A quick test measurement confirms that the straight edge is indeed 2 inches away from the current door bottom. A little tapping with the hammer could scoot the straight edge in or out if need be. At this point I'm ready to cut. I like to pull my blade guard up when taking off narrow strips of wood like this, but this does create more exposure to the spinning blade, which can be unsafe, so you probably want to leave yours down. Be sure to stand slightly to the side of your saw and pass it through the stock slowly and smoothly, keeping the edge of the sole plate in constant contact with the straight edge. Rushing the cut can cause more tear out or blade wandering, so take your time. When the cut is finished, the piece will just fall away. I remove the painter's tape and then ease our new bottom edge with a little bit of sandpaper or a medium grit sanding pad like this one. And I also take the opportunity to clean up the hinge pins with a little WD-40. I can now carry the door back inside, slide it onto the hinge knuckles, and tap the pins into place. Then, stepping out into the hallway, I can pull the door shut and ensure that our clearance is adequate. That's how you cut down an interior door. If you have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe. I'm Ethan James with honestcarpenter.com. Thanks for watching, everybody.